What is up, everyone? Welcome to a special edition of The Danny Show. I'm your host, Daniel Cody. This is where I give commentary and reviews on all things wrestling. I really hope you enjoyed that special couple of second intro to the video. As you can see by this match, you're probably asking yourself, what in the blue helicopter do I have on? This is the closest thing I can get to a Rey Mysterio mask. So we're just going to have to make this work for fun. Don't judge. But either way, all fun aside, let's get started. Today is a very special day. Today is the day of the masked luchador, the biggest little man in WWE history in all of professional wrestling, Rey Mysterio. So let's get started with my top 10 favorite Rey Mysterio matches. We start at number 10. We have Rey Mysterio versus Dean Malenko on an episode of WCW Nitro on July the 8th, 1996. This would be the date where Rey Mysterio would defeat Dean to win the WCW, one of a few many reigns as Cruiserweight Champion. And this was one of them, where he would defeat the man of a thousand holes, Dean Malenko. Now, for a moment, this match did not get a lot of attention because Tony, who obviously now works with AEW along with the other commentators, put a lot of attention on what happened at Bash at the Beach with Hogan joining the NWO. But this match to me was really great, and in the moment didn't get as much attention at first, but later on in the match, you can see the commentators really focusing on this one. At number 9, we have Rey Mysterio versus Cody Rhodes at Extreme Rules 2011. This was a rematch for WrestleMania 27, which took place in Cody Rhodes' hometown, my former hometown of Atlanta. This match was a rematch from WrestleMania, and I like this match because this match they fought everywhere. They fought all over the arena. They fought in the crowd. They fought backstage. This match to me is what I like to call a Peter versus the Chicken match. Peter Griffin versus the Chicken match. That I love those type of matches. You got a lot of them in the Attitude Era, and this was one of them to me because they fought everywhere. Eventually, Rey Mysterio would get a win over Cody Rhodes, thankfully, because at WrestleMania Cody won, and it was fair because it was in his hometown of Atlanta. But this time it was Rey Mysterio's turn to get the win in a very adventurous Peter versus the Chicken match, as I like to call it. Speaking at number 8, we have a triple threat match. Speaking of hometowns, at number 8, we have a triple threat match that took place on September the 26th, 2002, in Rey Mysterio's hometown of San Diego, where he would face both Kurt Angle and the forgettable Chris, as I'll say it like that, the Chris that people want to forget, Chris Benoit, in a amazing triple threat match between three of the greatest. It was the main event match. Now, if you've seen some of my Eddie Guerrero review as well as my Edge review from last year, you know that I said that this particular episode was awesome because Edge and Eddie fought off earlier that night. This was the main event, and it was awesome. It was a match that Rey Mysterio would win in his hometown while doing the West Coast pop to Chris Benoit for the victory. At number 7, we have Rey Mysterio versus Chris Jericho at WWE's The Bash 2009, which was a rematch from Extreme Rules 2009, which Jericho won, taking the Intercontinental Championship off of Rey Mysterio and also using Rey's mask as a distraction. With the mask issue coming up, there was a stipulation that if Rey lost at the Bash, he would have to take his mask off, which was a stipulation they did in WCW with him versus, I believe it was either Lex or Kevin Nash. But in any event, the next week he defeated Kevin Nash afterwards. But we did not want to see Ray get unmasked for the second time because in Lucha Libre tradition, once you take off the mask, you don't put it back on. Thankfully, Rey Mysterio was an exception to this because he came back in 2002 with the mask. Nonetheless, this particular match was great. We remember Chris Jericho trying to take off Rey Mysterio's mask again in that match. However, Rey Mysterio had a backup mask. And thankfully, Rey Mysterio, after a very epic match with Jericho, will go for the 619 for the win and regain, the Intercontinental Championship and keep the mask on his face. Thank God. That was one of those matches that I really wanted Ray to win. Speaking of matches we all wanted to see Ray win, at number 6 we have Rey Mysterio versus Matt Hardy on an episode of SmackDown on June the 5th, 2003. Now, to my knowledge, and if I'm wrong, correct me, but to my knowledge, this was the first time that WWE or SmackDown for that matter had a cruiserweight match as the main event with Dominic before he became Simp 19 at ringside at 6 years old with his sister and mother. This was a very important match for Rey Mysterio. They were in Anaheim at the time, not too far from Rey Mysterio's hometown, and his family was there watching. And despite interference from Crash Holly and Shannon Moore, Matt Hardy's followers, Rey Mysterio was able to roll Matt Hardy up for the victory in what would be a great main event featuring the cruiserweights on SmackDown. I don't think that's ever happened before. But nonetheless, it was a great match. And in the end, Rey Mysterio would celebrate by hoisting his then 6-year-old son, Dominic Mysterio, on his shoulders. Who knew that many years later, Dominic, all because of his mistress, Rhea Ripley, would turn on his own father? I wish Eddie Guerrero was alive to put some sense into this guy. Nonetheless, by the way, bottom line, in that match, Ray won the Cruiserweight Championship, celebrating with his son. Number 5, we have a match from ECW. This is Rey Mysterio versus Juventud Guerrero at March the 9th, 1996 in the ECW arena. Extreme Lucha Libre, 2 out of 3 falls. I wouldn't say this match was like Peter and the Chicken, but they did fight throughout the arena, throughout the crowd, and they actually ended up in the parking lot fighting outside in the night. But nonetheless, this was a 2 out of 3 falls, and Juventud Guerrero had the first one. Rey Mysterio got the rest. He would win that match. And also, don't spit on Ray. There's certain things you don't do. You don't spit on Superman's cape, and you don't spit on Ray's mask. Otherwise, he'll spit back and then kick your you know what. In any event, this was a match that Rey Mysterio would go on to win at ECW. Great match. I encourage you to check it out. It's also on Peacock for those of you who have Peacock. Check it out. Number 4, we have WrestleMania Backlash with Rey Mysterio and Dominic Mysterio before he lost his mind, facing off against Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode. This was a great match because this would be the match where Dominic and Rey Mysterio would become the first father and son tag team to become tag team champions in all of wrestling, not just WWE, but all of wrestling. So that match was really great, and I also really enjoyed reviewing that also. Next, by the way, I must say, ever since Dominic Mysterio turned heel, I will say that I am glad that Dominic does not use the 619 because if he ever uses the 619 again, I will dub it the Simp 19. Get it? So, if Dominic ever does it, I'm telling you right now, I'm going on YouTube, and if I ever see a new video, I'm putting in the comments When Rey Mysterio does it, it's the 619. When Dominic Trader Mysterio does it, it's Simp 19 from this day forward. But back to happier times. Dominic and Rey Mysterio win the SmackDown Tag Team Championships at WrestleMania Backlash. At number three, we have these three involve are all about one man, and that is Eddie Guerrero. And at number three, we have Rey Mysterio versus Eddie Guerrero at Halloween Havoc 1997. Now, next year I'll have to do a part two of Rey Mysterio because Rey has had a lot of great matches, many of them including Eddie Guerrero. You have WrestleMania 21, SummerSlam 2005, and Great American Bash. These two have had awesome matches together, but I got to put this one on this part of Rey Mysterio. This match, like Rey Mysterio versus Jericho, was about Rey Mysterio's mask. Rey Mysterio wore what seemed to be a purple Riddler suit with his mask attached to the whole bodysuit. Nonetheless, Eddie Guerrero went to ripping his mask off, trying to get him to take it off, but he wouldn't. But the match in itself was great. And to my knowledge, that was match of the year in 1997, Eddie versus Rey Mysterio. And nonetheless, Rey Mysterio would win the match, preserving himself being allowed to wear the mask in WCW. But like I said, Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero have had classics together. They were awesome. Speaking of Eddie Guerrero, at number two, we have Rey Mysterio at the Royal Rumble 2006. Now, if you go to Peacock, you will notice that they won't play this match. And this match is on my list because Rey Mysterio started the match at number one and went the entire distance to win the Royal Rumble. Now, because of he was a part of the whole match and won, I would put it on the list. However, this won't be on Peacock because Chris Benoit was part of that Royal Rumble, and because people want to forget him because of what he did in '07, that match won't be featured on Peacock's Best of Rey Mysterio, Best of WWE. Nonetheless, Rey Mysterio went the entire distance and he started with Triple H. And him and Triple H went the whole distance, but last minute he would eliminate Triple H and another fellow Evolution member, Randy Orton, who came in at number 30. That match was very important because that match was dedicated to Eddie Guerrero, and rumor has it that Chavo Guerrero was supposed to win those matches dedicated to Eddie, but they let Rey Mysterio do it instead. Nice move, and if that is true, that was very caring on Chavo's part. But nonetheless, Rey Mysterio won that match, the whole distance. And at number one is Rey Mysterio at WrestleMania 22, because as mentioned, Rey Mysterio winning the Royal Rumble in 2006 gave him the right to go on to WrestleMania to face off against Kurt Angle, then World Heavyweight Champion. However, because Randy Orton in dirty fashion won the match at No Way Out between himself and Rey, it was a triple threat match. And this match would cement Rey Mysterio as not only the underdog, but the biggest little guy, showing that dreams do come true. And even though he was the smallest in the match, he was able to defeat Randy Orton and Kurt Angle in the same night. A match that was also dedicated to Eddie Guerrero, who 24 hours prior went into the WWE Hall of Fame. So I know Eddie Guerrero would have been real proud to look down on his best friend Rey winning not only the Royal Rumble that year, but going on to have a great championship reign. And there are a lot of honorable mentions I can put on here, including his match with Andrade, which Samoa Joe ruined, matches with JBL and Chavo Guerrero, All of those matches were awesome. But that's the full top 10 for right now. Let me know in the comments what is your favorite Rey Mysterio match. I'm your host, Daniel Cody, and that's all the time I have for you today. And I'll be back with another review on all things wrestling. See you soon, folks.